Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a special Tuesday night, 9 p.m. edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
We got a great crowd filing in already, 616 strong in the YouTube chat. Rumble crossing the 600 mark right now to start the evening, 601 strong on the Rumble chat. What a sight to see. How about that? Beautiful.
Right, I have two questions.
What's that?
All right. So Keaton, suppose you're like a guy from New York City,
okay.
and you've lived in New York apartments pretty much all your life.
Right.
And so you've never had one of those garbage disposals in a sink. So are you not supposed to?
A loud-mouthed, opinionated, part Mongolian Jewish guy from New York who co-hosted a podcast with a taller, more handsome Jewish guy from slightly north of New York City. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a friend of mine.
Right. Yeah. I see where you're going.
So suppose you use the garbage disposal. Is that a bad thing to do if there's water in the sink?
You know, I've never actually had an apartment with an active garbage disposal.
You never had one either? All right.
I imagine it would be because it would probably shoot the water everywhere. Is that what happened?
No.
What happened?
No. I mean, what could happen is it might suck all that water into the bathroom sink and spill it onto the floor right before you go on air. That could happen before the show.
Oh, okay.
You could have spaghetti water and sauce all over the bathroom floor of your host, maybe.
Oh, okay. So that happened during the countdown just now?
Okay, so don't tell Jimmy. All right, so the plumber came the other day when they were away to fix the sink, and he told me you could use the garbage disposal. Now, there's a note there not to use the garbage disposal, but he told me he fixed it.
Right.
That there had been like glass in it, and he took it out. So the water wasn't draining from the sink. So I was like, well, maybe it's because you're supposed to use the garbage disposal with a sink that has it. Like maybe that stuff is clogging up in the garbage disposal.
Right.
And that's why it's not going down, because I just had a plumber here. So I hit it and it worked. It sucked all the water out, but apparently it sent it to the other sink.
Oh, okay.
And being from apartments, I don't know what's going on. I don't even know how to use a dishwasher, man.
Yeah, you don't have to in New York, you know.
Right.
Exactly.
So does anybody have a handle on this? Don't tell Jimmy. This is just between me and all 2,000 of you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Between Russell and all of our viewers who happen to be here. We got quite the big crowd. Looks like we have 824. You know what that means, Russell, on YouTube.
We do know what it means.
Well over 731 now in the Rumble chat. Lovely to see you all here, folks.
And this is my other question. Question. I know we got some people in NOLA. We got some people, and I just thought of this, man. Obviously I can't get my New York bacon, egg, and cheese here. And I'm figuring that's not really a thing there. So what would you get in NOLA? Like, what's the NOLA equivalent of the morning roll out of bed, bacon, egg, and cheese? What is that? What would I get there?
I mean, I would imagine the croissants are kind of big. You know, it's French. You know, I can imagine you get a nice buttery croissant there. I imagine that's probably in fashion.
Yeah, I mean the beignet. That's going to be too much sugar. I can't.
Yeah,
see
that's
having
pretty
that for
sweet.
breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. For something savory, I think, I would go with a nice buttery, flaky pastry. Indeed.
Yeah, something very French, probably.
Indeed. Great to see you all here tonight, folks, on what is temporarily an off-time slot. Russ is going to be hosting the Jimmy Show through February 9th, not straight through. Jimmy's coming back for a couple, but we are thinking of moving the schedule permanently to Tuesday, Thursday, in case these gigs come up in the future. We are finalizing that for sure in the coming days, so we'll have a final word on that shortly. But we are, of course, back on the Jimmy Dore Show tomorrow. And then Friday, we have an amazing guest lined up for the Jimmy Dore Show who we're very excited to be interviewing. Russell, you're the host. Do you want to announce that? That's going to be pretty amazing.
Which one?
Friday.
What, this Friday? What are you
this
talking
Friday.
about?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
All right. Well, I won't say.
Oh, that. No, they're giving me some. They're telling me not to fuck with that garbage disposal anymore. I asked them. Yeah. I asked them, and they're answering.
All right.
They're saying the pipe's still clogged. I shouldn't use it. See, I knew we have the best people. We have the best people, Keaton. And they're giving me some very good breakfast suggestions for NOLA.
Okay. Well, what about Friday? Jimmy Dore Show guest. You remember?
Are we going to announce it? Yeah.
Why
All
not?
right, so we have Ms. Stella Assange on the Jimmy Dore Show on Friday joining us, and we really wanted to do that because his hearing is coming up. What is it? The third week in February?
February 20th and 21st. Indeed. And so we reached out to her to see if she'd come on our show, and she was open to it. But then when we have the Jimmy Show, we're like, that's the far bigger platform. And the goal is obviously to maximize turnout outside of that courthouse for those 2 days. So that is going to be a really exciting interview. We're really glad to be able to platform her on such a huge venue. So we're really looking forward to that. We are without Jake tonight. We have a bunch of you guys watching, but the time switch was more than Jake could accommodate last minute. So we are without Jake, but I am still doing my best to field those Rumble rants. So I do have my eye on the screen. I already caught 2 of them, and we will hopefully catch some more as the night goes on. Thank you very much for being here. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Hardlands Media is here. Shout out to Hardlands Media, HLM. This is their backup channel, so definitely go check out their backup channel here on YouTube. But also, very important, as many of you did already, which was great to see. Check out Hardlands Media on Rumble as well. Kit had a great Rumble audience this morning. It's awesome, and we got a great Rumble audience now. So, all great stuff to see. We thank you all very much for being here. We do have some news to take care of tonight. Obviously, big news this week. Donald Trump grabs Iowa by the pussy, ladies and gentlemen. Dominant showing in the state of Iowa for the once and future king, Donald J. Trump.
He grabbed him by the corn cob.
Yeah, right, exactly. Grabbed him by the corn husk. Out there in the heartland, negative 20 degrees on caucus night, from negative 20 to negative 35 wind chills, depending on what part of the state you were in. But Donald Trump was, of course, on fire. So we are going to get to some segments here. We will be taking super chats and Rumble rants as we go. So send them if you got them. We can see a few of them have come in already. Thank you guys very much for your support. Donald Trump blew out the competition in Iowa last night, January 15th, at the Iowa caucuses. Donald Trump winning with 51% of the vote there. Ron DeSantis sneaking into second place, which was a bit of a surprise. Nikki Haley at third with 19.
Not to me.
Not to Russell, no. Ron DeSantis made Russell proud.
Ron DeSantis coming up From behind, coming around the turn, here comes Ron.
Here comes DeSantis. Yeah, indeed. Ramaswamy finishing just about where I predicted he would finish.
Loser.
7.7. Loser. Vivek
Loser.
Ramaswamy, indeed. Here's Donald Trump acknowledging the crowd after his record landslide victory at the Iowa caucus.
Well, I want to thank everybody. This has been some period of time, and most importantly, we want to thank the great people of Iowa. Thank you. We love you all. What a turnout, what a crowd. And I really think this is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together, whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world and straighten out the problems and straighten out all of the death and destruction that we're witnessing. That's practically never been like this. It's just so important, and I want to make that a very big part of our message. We're going to come together. It's going to happen soon, too. It's going to happen soon.
Donald Trump, the unity candidate of 2024. We got to do something about all the death and destruction. Well, I'm with him on that.
Yeah,
I agree with him on that.
I hope he follows through.
Hope he follows through. Indeed. We're going to take a look at some exit polls just to break down how he pulled off this record victory. And it is a record victory, folks, because Iowa goes first. Candidates have a lot of time. They take an entire year nowadays to sort of retail politic and barnstorm the entire state. It's not a particularly expensive ad market, so candidates get their names out there. They get their messages out there. For that reason, Iowa is typically pretty close. The record margin for a victory at the Iowa caucus was actually 12 points, and that was won in 1988 by Bob Dole, actually, who did not, ironically, go on to secure that nomination. But Donald Trump more than doubles that margin, 51-21. The gender breakdown, he actually fared better with women than with men. How do you like that? Not by much, but
in
pretty
spite
much
of what
even
you
split.
might have heard, women like getting grabbed by the pussy.
Right, exactly.
You know, a lot of women like it. Like, who do you think was buying 50 Shades of Grey?
Yeah, that's
Right?
true.
If that is a population that wants to be grabbed by the pussy.
Especially the evangelicals, right? You know,
Seriously.
secret ballot. Although it's not a secret ballot in the caucuses.
So for a while, I dated a lesbian. I did such a good job. She has 2 kids now. She's married to a guy. But you know, she used to tell me about how she would have that experience. She would have these like Christian fundamentalist women approach her. Like, you know, I never thought I could feel that way, but I'm so attracted to you. They would, you know, and usually if you talk to lesbians about stuff like that, usually that's just like the highway to hell. Not for theological reasons, but they just don't want to deal with the whole situation. They'll usually avoid it. But I hear that a lot from gay men too. You hear that yeah. I mean, obviously that seems to break into the public consciousness more. The Christian evangelical trying to find a glory hole in their town.
Yeah, right, exactly. Age-old story, great American story.
Story as old as time.
The age breakdown is interesting. DeSantis actually won with the youth. People made a big deal about Vivek's appeal to young voters, but actually Ron DeSantis won 17-29, which makes sense because his voters are very online. They're the most online contingent of the electorate, and so makes sense that DeSantis would do well there, and then as they got older, that red bar gets longer for Trump. This education continues to be the main discrepancy that always breaks in Trump's favor. Some college or less, Trump absolutely blowing his opponents out of the water. That's
he loves
true.
the poorly educated.
That's right. Well, that's whether he is running against a Democrat or the more established candidates in his own field. This speaks to what we talk about all the time with Donald Trump, a point I make all the time. He's analog. He's of the earth. He comes out of construction. He builds things, even though he's a rich kid. He has experience making money, at least, off of things that are built with your hands, right? Not a money cruncher.
He's not
on
a tech
screen.
bro.
Not a tech bro. exactly. And so that explains a lot of that discrepancy right there. Party self-identification. This is significant. Trump doing significantly better among registered Republicans than independents or something else. You see Nikki Haley with 34% of the independents or something else. Quite a few Democrats actually caucused for Haley and non-party members. This is something that handicaps her going forward and makes it almost impossible for her to win, because not all states are like Iowa with open caucuses or open primaries. There are a lot of states where you have to be a Republican to win, and Nikki Haley getting only 15% of registered Republicans. Ideology, the most conservative goes to Trump. We kind of figured that. Here's something, because this is going to come up later in the show. White evangelical Christians, 53% for Trump, but all others, 49% for Trump. So Trump did pretty equally well amongst evangelicals and non-evangelicals. And the highlighted text there, Trump's support among white evangelicals was more than twice as high as his 21% support in the 2016 Iowa caucuses, which, of course, he lost to Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz won 33% of this group, fueling his victory. So Trump more than doubling his support with evangelicals. As you can see, 65% of the electorate decided before this month who they were voting for. 2/3 of them went to Trump. Pretty easy to predict there. Obviously, the economy and immigration dominated the list of most important issues. Trump by a lot on each of those. Which one of these four candidate qualities mattered most in deciding whom to support today? The top piece says it all. Fights for people like me, which was 32% of voters. Now, shares my values was more. Trump still won that, but a third of these voters see this election, as I kind of predicted, as a fight between the permanent state and the average Joe or the average Jane. And they see Trump as their weapon against that permanent state who they hate very much. And that, more than anything else, is the macro theme of this campaign. And that's why I think he did as well as he did in Iowa. I think that's why he's doing as well as he is in New Hampshire, as well as he is in the primary overall, and most importantly, as well as he is in these general election polls against Joe Biden. Because what Russell was saying last week, how when the Democrat version of government intrusion into your life only creates more paperwork and more annoying, more authoritarian control without any of the material support that you want in exchange for some of
benefits.
that. Yeah, exactly. Then there's not much to say about voting Democrat. In addition to that, the censorship, the weaponization of the government, the way they treated the January 6th protesters does not sit well with a lot of people, even the people in Iowa who mostly had nothing to do with it. They're out in the middle of the country growing their crops. They see that. They don't like that. That is the major theme of the campaign so far. And Trump just wins that vote overwhelmingly. Because I mean, what? Ron DeSantis is going to go in there and pick apart the deep state? Nikki Haley is a deep state op. It's just not even close in that respect.
Well, this all kidding aside about what are looking like the predictions they're going to hang around my neck for the rest of my life with Ron DeSantis. Yeah, where he really fucked up, he got the culture war thing down. And it's not that doesn't play with the Republicans. It's that he, in the end, is a creature of the deep state. And he did not think through how much he needed to disown that element of his resume. If he had come out there and said, and pulled a Trump, yes, I'm the only one who can dismantle the deep state because I've been on the inside of the deep state. That might not have been a bad pitch. But when they asked him about things like Ukraine, he never really had an answer. I don't even know if he's taken a position on Gaza. What has he even said about it?
Yeah. No.
So he just didn't move into the other areas where Donald Trump is frankly preferable to someone like Nikki Haley, straight out preferable. We did a story the other night showing how Nikki Haley was one of the people who got Boeing into South Carolina, made sure that it wouldn't be a union job. And now, daily Boeing flights are having to do emergency landings because of cracked windshields and blown doors. And hey, she got paid off. She got a seat on the Boeing board when she got out of government. And in that capacity, she shut down an effort by shareholders to have more transparency about where the money that they were putting towards lobbying regulatory bodies was going, because that's a risk as a shareholder. If they're buying off the regulatory bodies and that's how you're putting unsafe planes in the air, that's a risk to you if you're a Boeing investor. So investors were trying to get a vote for more transparency, and she shut that down. That tells you a lot about the establishment that pretends to all this piety, that this is their avatar. This is the person they feel very comfortable with. Now, you want to say Donald Trump is certainly no Theodore Roosevelt trust-busting corruption fighter. I'll be the first person to agree with you, but he's no worse. And they'll put somebody like Nikki Haley out there as if she's better, and she's really not. Fundamentally, really not. And in some respects, worse, because look at her war positions.
Oh yeah, no,
Donald Trump.
Worse.
And look, he's a Zionist. All of that. My sense from Donald Trump has always been that he sees war as wasteful because of what Keaton talks about. He's analog, man. He's like, how does this put money in our pockets? He sees it as wasteful. He sees it as a waste of blood and treasure.
Of course. No, I mean, look, Haley is an absolute nightmare of a candidate. Look, we tell you straight how we feel here. I told you, I think Donald Trump, gun to my head, is the lesser evil to Joe Biden. Gun to my head, Joe Biden is the lesser evil to Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley is by far the worst candidate in this race of both parties. She's even worse, if that's possible, as bad or worse on matters of war and peace. And she's probably even worse on censorship and free speech. She's the one who wanted to register everyone on social media. You have to give your ID and your name. It's like, she's the absolute nightmare of all nightmares.
She's the worst of all worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. So the fact that she's the alternative, I think really says something. And we have more on that later, but I just want to go through the rest of these. There's not too many. Would you favor or oppose a federal law banning most or all abortions nationwide? Obviously, Iowa leans evangelical, so most voters did support that, and they voted for Trump by a pretty wide margin. DeSantis did much better than Haley amongst the evangelicals, which is not a surprise, since he really made his pitch on that issue there. But again, another issue where DeSantis has the base. He has his finger on the pulse of the base, but these are not national election issues. Do you think Joe Biden legitimately won the presidency in 2020? Hey, we can talk about this on YouTube now. Thanks, YouTube. Among those who said yes, which was only 29% of the voters, Nikki Haley won big. Like I said, a lot of Democrats crossed over and voted for her. That explains that. And amongst no, which was 2/3 of the voters, almost 70% for Trump. If Donald Trump were to be convicted of a crime, would you consider him fit to be president? We're going to have more on this later. But 65% of the electorate said, yes, he's fit, even if he's convicted. And 72% of them voted for Trump. Among those who said no, only 10% voted for Trump. Haley getting, of course,
I love
the overwhelming plurality of that. What?
I love the 7% who said no and voted for him anyway.
Yeah, that would be, yeah, exactly. Yep.
He's not fit. Biden's not fit. Who is fit? Fuck it.
Fuck it. Well, this is going to come up later, so we'll talk more about that later. Do you consider yourself part of the MAGA movement? Yes, was only 46% of voters. No, 50% of voters. So actually, half the voters said no, they're not part of the MAGA movement. That's interesting. And 25% vote for Trump. Anyway, so that's a dominant showing. Because Haley came in second, that keeps DeSantis alive through New Hampshire, which only helps Trump more. The fact that Haley came in third keeps DeSantis in the race, keeps them both on the ballot in New Hampshire. And now with Vivek dropping out, obviously, he's going to get an extra bump out of that because Vivek's support will almost all go to him. And so you couldn't have really drawn that up much better if you were Donald Trump last night. I predicted he'd do a little stronger than he would. I predicted he'd be in the mid to high 50s. DeSantis outperformed my expectations. That's kind of where I got it wrong. I was pretty close on Haley's total. I had her for 17. She got 19. And I was pretty much dead on Vivek's total. But I underestimated your man a little bit. And that's where my prediction was slightly off. But the fact that DeSantis overperformed only helps Trump in the end because it keeps it a three-person race going into New Hampshire where Trump is set to walk away with it again.
Yeah. The question for me, it's always come down to this. Like Vivek, although with far less self-interested reasons. Yeah, that is one thing I did agree with him on. I don't think they will let that man be the president. So, the whole DeSantis thing, it was never based on electoralism. I mean, it's really based on, well, who's going to be most likely to capture his base after, the Luca Brasi stops by his hotel suite in Amsterdam.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see what happens. I mean, that's something that you're not going to see some kind of momentum shift in the race.
No.
Haley, I mean, if she keeps coming in third, which I would imagine she will, although, I mean, New Hampshire can always be
No, New Hampshire, she's going to win. She's going to come in second, New Hampshire.
You think she'll come in second?
Almost certainly, yeah. DeSantis' numbers are so bad in New Hampshire, he's only doing like 1 or 2 events there, and he's going straight to South Carolina.
So he's just giving up on it.
Yeah, he's single digits. No, she's...
Okay.
Look, she's...
Right.
But that's why if he were out of the race entirely and she picked up those votes, she may have been able to get within Hail Mary distance, right? I mean, it's still... We're talking about a long shot that she would overcome Donald Trump, especially now with Vivek out. But with DeSantis in, it's going to drag her down even a few more points. And you're right. I mean, there's no opening for anybody here. There's no opening for anybody to gain any momentum.
No one's going to pull away and be a real challenge to him.
Right.
That the Republicans who are trying to coalesce around Haley, they've mostly become Democrats at this point because the Democrats have become neocons.
Right. Yeah.
Like how much difference is there between this Democratic Party and George Bush's Republican Party? George Bush expanded Medicare prescription drug protection. Right. He did more than Joe Biden has done to update those programs. So what's the difference? If you're a compassionate conservative, why wouldn't you be a Democrat at this point? As George Bush defined that.
Right. Indeed. All right, let's take some super chats. Hobbs45, thanks for the $11. Can't we do something about illegal fish crossing aquatic borders and illegal birds crossing sky borders? Who's willing to defend these borders with me? Good point, Hobbs. You should write for the Trump campaign now. They got to expand their staff.
They try to sell you fruit roll-ups on the subway. It's really annoying.
Yeah, exactly. Daryl Deachman, thanks for the $27.99 and job for humanity. I get what you did there. Shirt's going to be a huge seller in the Do This merch shop. Think about it, fellas. Yeah, we want to make some clever designs, some fun designs for 2024.
We should, because these shirts are very popular.
Oh, yeah. Russell's wearing the big one that caught people's eye on the Jimmy Dore show when he first hosted. Yeah, they loved that one. That was a big hit. Boo-boo2525H, thank you. Song running through my head, holding out for a hero and don't sear Tucker Rocket. Stepping up. Nope. They are not stepping up. Lori and Brightbill, thanks for the $9.99. You've just narrowed down where the drain is plugged. Excuse me. It's downstream of both sinks. You've just narrowed down where the drain is plugged. Downstream of both sinks. Yeah, there's probably a clog somewhere.
Thank you. Yeah, like I guess he cleared something out because it worked for a couple days. Like he was here 3-4 days ago. And just now I looked at the sink and it was still clogged. And I was like, oh, he said now the garbage disposal works. So maybe I need to use it because maybe that's how it works when you have that. But apparently not. Apparently that was a stupid idea.
Bubba says, excuse me. Well, ScrewTube censored my original message. Can't mention 45. Not an original supporter, but never Hillary or Jim Crow Joe voter. It's interesting. You couldn't say the word Trump? That's
they
weird.
censored you saying Trump.
Can't say Trump. Man,
That's
they're
funny.
stepping it up. Try hard. Thanks for the $2. Can't believe Russell is only 5'5".
5'5.5". For your information, it's 5'5.5".
Oh man, what the fuck is going on with me?
That half inch is what allows me to ride the roller coaster.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You got to make sure. Got to make sure you sneak up on those heels if you have to. Also, flush the toilets. That's some advice.
It's not that. The toilet works like a dream. I've seen things here you people wouldn't imagine.
You would never know.
I've seen gates that lock with a code. I've seen salt grinders that work electronically with the press of a button.
Wow.
I've seen things I did not know existed.
Wow. It's like the future world.
I swear to God, because I was trying to grind it. I was like, this is a really hard fucking grinder. And then I didn't even realize. And I touched the end of it and it grinded. I was like, holy shit. I didn't even know they made such things.
Yeah, I never knew that existed.
Yeah.
Nocturnal Human. I have to go to work, but here's a quick one for you. Are you between Argentina and Brazil? Because Uruguay, I'd like to know. Because
You're a guy.
Oh, because you're a guy, I'd like to know. Ah, got it. Interesting. Thank you.
Big Basil, thank you for getting what I was going for there. No, where'd Big Basil go? See, the chat's coming too fast. I was doing my little riff on Blade Runner there. He got it.
Got it.
Like tears in rain.
Keaton, here's a few bucks. Thanks,
die.
Granny Door. To buy a hot cup of coffee when you get to New Hampshire. You're going to need it. Yeah, it's going to be cold. Saturday is going to be high of 17 degrees, so that is going to be cold tailgating with the Trumpers. But they are going to be lined up, and so I'm going to be out there with them. And I was supposed to go to a Vivek Ramaswamy event in New Hampshire on Saturday, but he dropped out. In fact, I'm going to incorporate that in the beginning of our clip, which is coming up right now. So I'm going to say that again. So, folks, I'm going to New Hampshire this weekend, as many of you know, to do some on-the-ground reporting, and I was very excited to go to a Vivek Ramaswamy town hall event in Milford, New Hampshire. I had it scheduled. It was in the calendar, but Vivek did not fare very well last night. He finished in fourth place with 7.7% of the vote, and so he decided to cancel those town hall events in New Hampshire and instead suspend his campaign. Here he is addressing his supporters.
A campaign founded on speaking the truth, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. Not just to the Democrats, but to our own side. And not just to other campaigns and candidacies, but to ours. And so I will stick to the truth tonight. The first hard truth, and this one's hard for me. I got to admit this.
I'm gay.
But we've looked at it every which way, and
We had city hands, Mr. Hooper. Counting money all your life.
Achieve the surprise that we wanted to deliver tonight. And I think that that's just a hard fact that we're going to have to accept as a campaign. And the question then is, what do we do that is right for our country? And so Purv and I, we actually didn't make this contingency plan before everybody told us to. We said, no, we're not doing that. But we talked about it tonight. We took a little bit of time in our apartment in Des Moines before coming here to make some hard choices.
See, he clearly didn't make this contingency plan because I'm going to New Hampshire next week to do some on-the-ground reporting, as I mentioned, and he had events lined up, which is one of the reasons why I thought he's going to stay in, and that could have been one of the reasons why Trump went off on him there, because he figured the guy's not even going to get out of my way after Iowa, but turns out, I think what happens is that backlash that he got from the MAGA crowd when he did his bullshit thing, vote for me to save Trump, the fact that he got such a flood of pushback probably signaled to him, hey, I better get out of this race now. I better not stand in Trump's way in New Hampshire. I think that was part of his rationale there, for sure.
Yeah, he's trying to salvage it before it's impossible for Trump to let bygones be bygones.
Exactly. I don't think Trump gives you 3 strikes. You're lucky if you get 2. He gave him 2. So he figures strike 1 was pulling that bullshit at the last minute in Iowa. Strike 2, that would have been staying on the ballot in New Hampshire. But here's the rest.
And I wanted to make a couple of announcements tonight to get the business out of the way. and then I want to tell you where we're going. As of this moment, we are going to suspend this presidential campaign. And this is going to have to be, there is no path for me to be the next president absent things that we don't want to see happen in this country.
Like the things I told you were going to happen 2 days ago in my closing pitch to the voters of Iowa. Now I realize, you know what? Maybe that argument that they're going to whack Trump, so you better support me, that obviously didn't win over the hearts and minds of the Republican faithful. So now I'm going to just backtrack. You know what? We really don't want that to happen, so we're not going to go there. So I'm going to do the sensible thing, which is drop out and support.
I spoke to Elon over a bowl of ketamine, and he is working on a force field that will protect Donald Trump from any assassination attempts from the deep state. So now I feel comfortable removing myself from the race.
From now on, I will be volunteering for the Trump campaign as his personal bodyguard. Sir, please step back. Sir, I'm asking you again, please step back.
I am well trained in Krav Maga.
Yeah.
And a variety of other martial arts techniques.
Yep.
And I think that I am very worried for our country. I think we are skating on thin ice as a nation. We have done everything in our part to make, and done, every one of us in this room has done our part to save this country. And I am so proud of every one of you who have lifted us up. But we're a campaign founded on the truth. And so that's why we've made that decision today. And I'm also making the decision that this has to be an America First candidate in that White House. As I've said since the beginning, there are 2 America First candidates in this race. And earlier tonight, I called Donald Trump to tell him that I congratulated him on his victory. And now going forward, he will have my full endorsement for the presidency. And I think we're going to do the right thing for this country. And so I'm going to ask you to follow me in taking our America First movement to the next level. It did not begin in 2016. It began in 1776.
There you go. Made sure to get that one in before the buzzer. That's his new big line.
I don't need this working class hero crap.
Vivek's campaign is no more. We're going to miss Vivek. Vivek produced some good moments. He had some good, took some good shots there at Nikki Haley and some of the neocons in the race. He served a purpose. But I always thought he was a bit of a double talker, and he really proved that in the past few days. He
was. I must say I did take some pleasure in him on the debate stage telling all of them that they're irrelevant and it should be hosted by, what did he say, Joe Rogan,
the media people,
Elon Musk.
Right.
Because he's not wrong in terms of what would be relevant to people and who would ask questions that people would be interested in. He wasn't wrong. I mean, that was why I said Vivek was talented. He had that talent for speaking truths that, kind of hit that spot that Trump hits. But he just didn't read with the same kind of sincerity.
Yeah, no, he came across as very performative. He always came across as rehearsed to me. And look, I mean, there was no real way for him to.
He took some shots. I mean, that's where he was Trump-esque, because he took some shots that were off script.
Oh, sure. Of course. Absolutely. And speaking of Elon, because we mentioned Elon a couple of times in this segment, and Elon is not alone in this, but Elon has obviously, for obvious reasons, a huge X following. And there were a lot of people where, when I, criticized Vivek on the Jimmy Dore show, and even when I did it here, there were a lot of people who gave me the comment, well, you believe the polls? You believe the polls that say he's polling at 7-8%? I said, yeah, I do believe the polls. I think he's going to finish around 7-8%, and that's where he finished. But if you got it wrong, it's not entirely your fault, because here's Elon Musk tweeting out on the 13th. My guess
is that
Vivek
where it was coming from?
will far exceed the polls when the votes are counted. Well, Vivek was also saying, hey, you know, numbers don't lie, but polls do. There's a sleeping giant of support for me out there. And there was never any evidence of that. And here's just, you know, shit-talking Elon Musk. Yeah, my guess, based on what I want to happen, because I'm a rich guy who usually gets what he wants. Yeah. I'm a rich guy who usually gets what he wants. And so I want Vivek to do better than expectations. And so I'm just going to say, without any basis in reality, that the polls are rigged against Vivek and that he's going to shock the world. And there was never any reason to believe that was going to happen. He had his moment, just like a lot of candidates have their moment. Remember in, 2012, Herman Cain had that big moment, right, where he surged in the polls and he was winning in Iowa. It lasted a few weeks, and then people moved on. That's kind of what Vivek had for a while there. But there was never any reason to believe that he was going to really catch fire. He did what was certainly the smart move in dropping out and endorsing Trump ahead of New Hampshire, and apparently it worked. He was on stage with Trump at a rally in New Hampshire just about an hour before we went live. So apparently all is forgiven. Apparently they're cool. He got away with it. He got away with one. Not many people cross Trump and actually get away with it, but seems like he is an exception in that case. So ends the Ramaswamy campaign. And so begin his days as a Donald
Vivek,
Trump
we
surrogate.
hardly knew you.
We hardly knew you. Matt's retiring. Great work on the show, lads. Thanks for the $5. I've always wondered if the podcast name is a double entendre. Do sounds like Jew, especially to an Australian ear. Well, it's a play on due diligence. That's the play on words, since that's kind of a common phrase. So that's where it originally came from. And it just came to me out of absolutely nowhere. I don't know where or why or how it came to me, because that's always the hardest thing. Like, a good title will always come to you. You'll never think of a good title for something. It'll always pop in your head.
You know, Arbiano was very jealous when we had him on Jimmy Dore. He said that now when you put in revolutionary there on YouTube, the algorithm picks it up. It fills it in immediately. I mean, with us, nice. you put in do, you get scat play. It's never going to happen for us.
Yeah, that might not
We're
happen.
We're never going to have more viewers than scat play channels.
I don't think so. But we can dream, can't we? Matt's retiring. Fire alarm pulled at White House today. Has anybody seen Jamal? Is that true? Was a fire alarm pulled? Oh, yeah. They said that they had some kind of stunt happen. Yeah, I did see something about that. Tina Krause, thanks for the $2. Appreciate that very much. Jake is not here, folks, so I'm not always catching the name of the Rumble Ranter, but I am publishing Rumble Rants. The dollar icon for Rumble Rant wasn't in the Rumble app chat, but I made the transition to Rumble in a mobile browser and found it. Please clap. Well, thank you. That's dedication. We appreciate it. We'll give you give you a clap for that for sure, my friend. And for $1, Vivek is angling for a cabinet level position and a book.
Yep.
He would actually be a good press secretary when you think about it. You know, that might be a good job for him, but he might not want it.
He would actually.
He'd be great, but he might not want it. He might want something a little bit higher up, but he would be good at that. Those would be some pretty fiery press conferences. Yeah.
He's got the right kind of slimy kind of instincts for that.
Yeah, indeed. So Vivek Ramaswamy suspended his campaign after finishing fourth to obviously Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, and Nikki Haley, who finished in that order. The fact that Haley finished third, though, didn't stop her from making the claim that this is now a two-person race between her and Donald Trump. Look at what she says versus the chyron at the bottom of the screen.
I can safely say tonight, Iowa made this Republican primary a two-person race.
It says right on the screen, you're in third. It says right on the screen, you're in third place. It says right there, 51, 21, 19, and you go up there and say...
That's why he calls her bird brain.
Yeah, bird brain. There you go. That's why he calls you bird brain. See? You walk right into his trap there. You finish third. You say, well, now it's a two-person race.
I can safely say tonight, Iowa made this Republican primary a two-person race.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
Tonight, I will be back in the great state of New Hampshire. And the question before Americans is now very clear. Do you want more of the same? Or do you want a new generation of conservative leadership?
That's an interesting question because Haley really is more of the same of Joe Biden. Right. Like she is basically more reliably a continuation of Joe Biden than even Joe Biden. And, you know, we be careful what we say. We don't want this to happen, of course. We don't wish this on him. But actuarial tables being what they are, it's likely that the next term of Joe Biden will not end as Biden's term. And so she's actually the most reliable sort of torchbearer of the Biden legacy, which is worldwide death, destruction, and war, and censorship and austerity here at home. So she's actually the more of the same candidate.
Genocide Joe's already taken. So what's she going to be? Ethnic cleansing Haley, or we have to find what her name's going to be. She is. I mean, she's very like Hillary.
Yeah,
she's running on her genitalia in place of offering any kind of legitimate change.
And I guess relative youth.
Her identity is the change. I mean, Hillary wasn't able to run on her youth, but she was running on her identity. And I mean, that is identity politics. That is DEI in a nutshell. The idea that swapping out the identities into the same old roles, structures, and systems is in and of itself revolutionary. That's revolutionary change by itself, which of course protects those structures. That's the purpose of it.
Right, of course. And the other Orwellian thing about that speech that she gave was that she finishes third place and she says it's now a two-person race. Your job in this caucus was to make this a two-person race by knocking DeSantis out. You needed to finish second. Like, if your theory of the case was that you could build momentum going into South Carolina, which is your home state, you needed to finish second here, get DeSantis out of your way, make a really strong showing in New Hampshire with DeSantis out of the way. That was a lot more possible than it is now. And then shock the world and win South Carolina, and then see if you can get some money together for some ad campaigns on Super Tuesday, at which point you're still throwing a Hail Mary.
Right.
Because what did we learn with the Bernie Sanders campaigns? These early states are good for momentum, but momentum can't stop a juggernaut like Trump. Bernie never built a ground game in a lot of the Super Tuesday states like Arkansas, Tennessee, these places where you kind of forget about because they're not the big marquee states, but they still have a lot of delegates and they still count in terms of, you know, springboarding your campaign off of Super Tuesday. So she's got nothing there. So it's going to be extremely difficult for her to compete on Super Tuesday. But if you knocked DeSantis out, did well in New Hampshire, shocked the world and won your home state, South Carolina, now you can at least throw the ball down the field and see what happens on Super Tuesday. But without having done the first step of that, now DeSantis is in. Now you can't catch Trump in New Hampshire, which means you're not going to get any momentum going into South Carolina. You're done. I mean, you had to finish second here, and you didn't.
However, this is what you do have to take into account, and as much as I hate to give it up to friend of the show Rachel Maddow. She's not wrong. We'll get to this, but he is going to get convicted. I mean, there's no way he's going to skate on all the charges he's getting hit with.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure.
I really don't think, and I'm not litigating whether he should. I'm simply saying I don't think it's likely that none of these charges end in a conviction. And between that and the Supreme Court agreeing to take up Colorado, anything can happen. You could be looking at a DeSantis Haley race by the time you get into Super Tuesday and beyond. You really don't know. So because you have factors here that are really unprecedented, I don't think you're going to see people dropping out quite the way they would in a normal election, because they're going to want to be there in case.
Right. Exactly. Well,
like if the Supreme Court turned around and made a ruling, it would not surprise me if they were still in. They just drop out the next day.
I mean, technically, you can still, do that because technically that's why they say you're suspending your campaign, not ending it, right?
Right.
So you could theoretically restart it, of course.
But it's very difficult to get your momentum and your structure back.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you already have a team in place, you're in a better position to capitalize on those events if and when they should happen. And there are Trump trial dates scattered throughout this primary calendar. One of them started today, the E. Jean Carroll case in New York. That's a civil case, but that started today.
I mean, that won't take them down.
This schedule is going to be insane.
People have already heard this, and it's not a criminal. That's not a criminal case. That's a civil case.
It's a civil case, yeah.
But when you're looking at some of these criminal cases, if he gets convicted, it's not, I don't think he can't win a Republican primary convicted, but Jesus, what if they literally put him in jail? Like what, at what point do Republican voters turn around and say, well, we could get two terms out of DeSantis?
Right. Of course.
Like, is there a limit where it just becomes too much? So I don't think you can evaluate this the way you would evaluate any race we've ever seen in terms of what the also rans.
Oh yeah, no, obviously there's a ton of X factors. But in terms of her thesis that this is now a two-person race and that she can garner organic momentum as the calendar goes on.
Well, that's what I think they call in the business pulling a Buttigieg.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Pulling a Buttigieg.
Thank you for giving me the victory in Iowa.
Right. What? Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how that goes. Tina Krause, thanks for the $2. Appreciate that very much. Tusker, joining late because I always have party business on Tuesdays. What did I miss? Not much, Tusker. We started at 9 tonight.
Oh, is that why that Tasty Freeze blew up in Little Rock?
Spade 2187. So glad you had RBN because according to Beavis and Butthead, Vanguard, Jimmy destroyed their viewership. Russ keeps killing it on Jimmy. Yeah, no, there's no. As you could see, we had them on last night. It's fine.
We're all friends, man. We're all friends.
Nicole Vance, thanks for the $5. I love when I get to see you gentlemen live. Thank you, Nicole. We love when you get to see us too. Appreciate that very much. Tintabar, love your show. Just got a job after a 9-month layoff.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Congratulations. Good for you.
You know what? In honor of that, you're going to be the first person to get the sound drop.
There we go.
Cowbell for you, my friend. Cowbell for you.
Cowbell is here. Indeed. Beautiful. What do you guys think of that cowbell? And then we have a singing bowl, but we will reveal that later on.
That'll be the big reveal.
The big reveal. Right. We have to be ceremonious about that. Tusker says Vivek is the Andrew Yang of 2024.
That's not a bad call.
Not a bad call at all. Kelly Watson, Snowflake. It is snowing here in upstate New York quite a bit. We got hammered with snow today. Insane.
Yeah, it snows for the first time in New York. And isn't this like a record without snow since they've been keeping records? It hasn't snowed in 2 years in New York. And I'm in
New York City?
I'm in like the one part of the country that's not snowing.
Yeah, I don't know if the city got any. We get significantly more now.
Didn't they?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. I know we get more snow up here because now I'm like 90 miles straight north
upstate,
of where I live.
Sure,
so
but not in the city.
In the Hudson Valley, we got more or less the same as the city because we're only 60 miles north in the Hudson Valley. Now I'm 160 miles north, so it's a big difference up here. Tusker, Holocaust Haley, done. Beautiful, Tusker. Like it. Dig it. There you go. Nice alliterative nickname should she become president.
Haley!
Yeah.
There you go.
Look at
we
that.
have the best people.
We have the best
people.
I like this. If Joy Reid hates Trump so much, why'd she steal his haircut? Yes, she's got the yellow hair now. Good one. Thank you.
We're going to steal that for the show tomorrow and pretend we came up with it.
Yeah, we could steal that one. We could say that on the Jimmy Dore show, and we'll pretend that it's ours. Alrighty, folks. So we are going to move right along. The fan on my computer was blowing pretty hard, and so I'm going to do our patron shout out at the end of the show because I don't want to risk blowing this machine out halfway through the stream. But we do want to thank you guys very much for your support. We had some new Patreon members sign up this week. So please, if you can, sign up, patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com, or DoDissidents.locals.com. If you're on Rumble, you can sign up right now by clicking that join button underneath the video screen. Underneath the screen, there's a join button and a follow button. Hit that join button and join our locals. For as little as $5 a month, you get your name up in lights, either when we have Jake on the stream or at the end of the show when we don't have Jake and my computer is huffing and puffing. But we'll do your shout out at the end. You also get access to 2 bonus streams per month and call-in access to our post-show weekly Q&As every Sunday night on Rumble. Thank you guys all very much for your support. Nikki Newcomb, that's not bad. I like that one. That's good, too. And Zig Haley, that's a good one, too.
I like that one.
Zig Haley.
All three of those are great.
This is not bad either. Nakba Nikki, that's a good one, too. Wow. See, you guys are more on than we are tonight. I feel like you guys are showing us up tonight.
We should bring these people on as writers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we need a writing team now. Very, very well done. Appreciate it. Let's hit that like button wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that follow button over on Rumble. 1690 strong in the YouTube chat. 1100 over on Rumble. Beautiful. Nice. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, folks. So we're doing a lot of Iowa stuff tonight. We got some more non-Iowa stuff coming up after this, but we showed you Donald Trump's speech. We broke down his victory. We showed you Vivek's gracious removal of himself from the race. We showed you Nikki Haley trying to spin her way into second place. Now we're going to see some good old lib meltdowns from MSNBC. First up, here's Joy Reid setting the expectation for the night because everybody knew Trump was going to win. And here's Joy Reid saying, now just remember, everybody, don't expect a good result because the people in Iowa are white Christians.
You know, I feel like the important sort of data point, and you know, Steve talks about it a lot. He's going to probably talk about it a little more tonight. Is that these are white Christians, that this is a state that is overrepresented by white Christians that are going to participate in these caucuses, especially tonight. Earlier today, reached out to Robbie Jones, from the Public Religion Research Institute, knowing that we were going to talk about Iowa. And this is a hyper evangelical white state.
Is that actually
and
Louis
he said the following to me: Iowa is about 6.
Who?
Louis Anderson. I think that's Louis Anderson's haircut.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember the show you're talking about.
It was very funny.
61% white Christian. The country as a whole is approximately 41% white Christian. And in Iowa, we're talking about evangelical white Christians. And he said the following, because I asked him, what do they get out of supporting Donald Trump? Because he keeps losing, he keeps delivering losses and losses and losses. And he said the following. They see themselves as the rightful inheritors of this country, and Trump has promised to give it back to them.
Is that what this scholar of white religious America told you? Is that what he told you? So this is based on what he told you. Because what I think he gave evangelicals was the overturning of Roe versus Wade, which is something they had wanted for 50 years. Well, I mean, I'm not a scholar. I'm just a schmuck with a YouTube show. So maybe this scholar from some institute, I forget what the fuck it was.
Just a schmuck with a schmata.
Exactly. Just a schmuck with a schmata here. Maybe he knows better than me.
Well,
but,
we got to...
I think that really won their hearts, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, a 50-year project completed not under Trump, but because of the 3 justices that Trump was able to put onto that court. One of them at the last minute. So that's my guess, what they got out of it.
That's my favorite. Speaking of nicknames, that's probably my favorite one that you've ever come up with. Amy Pancakes.
Amy Pancakes.
The Amy Pancakes one is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Yeah, so Joy Reid taking a break from being on the right side of history with Israel.
Right.
Back to her old race hustling tricks or race baiting tricks. This is something, we could talk to Ellen about this at some point, but what I get from actually listening to evangelicals and not some asshole that spoke to you in a hallway for 5 minutes that you decided to build your entire segment around. Christianity has built into it the idea that we're all flawed sinners, right? It's based on this book of mythology that is very centered on the idea that everyone falls short of the glory of God, that everyone is imperfect, that everyone is a sinner. Even Moses doesn't get to enter into the promised land, right? Because he has failed God fundamentally. So the idea that God has chosen Donald Trump to work his will, and who are we to question his messenger? We are all sinners in the eyes of God. We are all imperfect vessels. I think that's at the bottom of it. I think that's why they don't really care. I don't think evangelicals look at Donald Trump and see him as a holy person or see him as somebody who shares their values. I think they see it as the Lord works in mysterious ways, and for whatever reason, the Lord has outlawed abortion through this imperfect vessel of Donald Trump. It's consistent with their theology. Like the fact that he's a sinner, that's not a deal breaker. Why would it be?
And also, yes, all that's true. It makes total sense that would not be a deal breaker in their eyes. But, since Reagan, and especially since George Bush and Karl Rove really activated the Christian right like never before in 2004, these evangelicals can be quite Machiavellian. Like, they want power. They understand that they don't get to enjoy the fruits of their worship here on earth unless they actually win power. Right. And when they're organized, they can be tough to beat. But I just love how she centers this point around this guy whose opinion she asked. Oh, let me ask a friend of mine at some liberal think tank what he thinks of the evangelicals, and I'll cite this as a source so that it sounds to my audience like I know what I'm talking about. Like, I can speak for evangelical Christians as a whole, even though the point of this is to badmouth
people them. Are saying.
Right,
meaning,
people are saying. Meaning
people who would be in the same room with me are saying.
Right, yeah, exactly.
People I would know are saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what about the fact that election cycle by election cycle, more and more people who don't fit that identity category are swinging towards Donald Trump? How do you explain the fact that, he's running about even with Latinos now? He already in 2020 did better with African Americans than anyone since Nixon. Right. So how do you explain, if that's the whole appeal, how do you explain the inroads that he's making with those communities? They so desperately want to make everything about race in order to avoid a discussion of their own failures in regards to policy and delivering for the American people. Their whole Keynesian economics have failed because they were never able to deliver them.
Yeah, and if you look here, Trump did pretty much the same amongst non-white evangelical Christians as he did amongst white evangelical Christians, right? He did pretty much the same amongst both groups. And while the evangelicals do make up a significant percentage of the Iowa population, they were the majority of voters in this caucus. They were not the vast majority of voters in this caucus. They made up 55%. Of the voters. And Donald Trump did pretty much just as well amongst them as he did amongst other groups.
This is for people who would be sitting there watching the fucking spike in the head, for me personally, that is MSNBC. This is their Monarchian story that they like. That is the favorite story of humanity. Look at the top 10 movies. They are all these Monarchian good versus evil, very simple fairy tale like stories. Star Wars, Avatar. It's very good. It's very bad. Their central mythology is evil, white, heteronormative, cisgendered Christians are their only real issue with the direction the country is taking is racial animus and homophobia and sexism. That's the only complaint they have, the fear that they're losing their prominence. And they only vote on that basis. That's the core Star Wars. That's the Force for these people, right? That's the core dark side of the Force, right? And all of the people who have a D next to their name are the forces of light fighting to move society forward away from these evil white Christian people. And that's it. That's their favorite story. That's their Avatar. That's their Star Wars. That's their Harry Potter. And they tune in to MSNBC to hear that story told again and again and again and again with a different cast of characters and some of your old favorites.
Well, that was Joy Reid warning you that there was going to be a scary result if you're in her audience. And then as Nikki Haley shits the bed, here's Joy Reid's explanation for her underperformance.
To the point that you made, Steph, I mean, it's the elephant in the room. She's still a brown lady that's got to try to win in a party that is deeply anti-immigrant and which accepts the notion that you can say immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. She's getting, birthered by Donald Trump. And I don't care how much the donor class likes her, which will ramp up a lot, the better she does in New Hampshire. So it's still a challenge. I don't see how she becomes the nominee of that party with Donald Trump still around. I can't picture it happening. Maybe it could happen. Ron DeSantis' only argument for staying in it is he's the white guy, that he can still make the appeal to white evangelists.
No, it can't possibly be. It can't possibly be that Nikki Haley is losing because she's actually more pro-war and more pro-censorship, not than Donald Trump, than Joe Biden. That couldn't be why she's losing. It's because she's brown? Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That is her sitting next to Rachel Maddow. That is quite a sister act of unconscionable whores. So you got Joy Reid putting out the narrative about a candidate who wouldn't even say the word slavery in regards to the Civil War.
Right.
Claiming that she's losing with Trump, with the Republican base because she's brown, even though she is a Republican politician who was the fucking governor of the very red state of South Carolina. You're going to prop her up because that is what you were told to do, right? You were told that Nikki Haley, that's the acceptable person, and that's the person you're going to hold up as everything that is good and true against the evil Donald Trump because she could fit very comfortably in that panel. That's really what they like about her. You could stick her in Nicole Wallace's chair very easily. And then you've got fucking profile and courage there, Rachel Maddow, who no matter how many of her co-anchors are fired for horrible reasons, for being anti-war, for being pro-labor, or for being pro-Palestine, she will not speak up for any of them. She's never said a word in any of their defense. She's never used her considerable leverage at that network. I mean, she's the only person who has any kind of ratings there from what I know.
Yeah, she's the only person who could walk into the corporate headquarters. I don't know who runs it anymore. It's not Phil Griffin anymore, right? Somebody else.
No, he's gone.
Yeah, she's the only person who could walk in and say it's Ali Velshi or me. It's Mehdi Hassan,
right.
or not him or me. I'm sorry, that's wrong. I fucked that up. If he goes, I go. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Right. And she could save their jobs. But she is a stone cold psychopath who really does not give a flying fuck. And to have her and Joy Reid sitting side by side pretending to have some kind of license to lecture people about decency and morality and progress. What a couple of pieces of shit. I mean, it's just amazing to watch them next to each other because you'd be hard pressed to find two people with less ethics in the media. Although, as we have said, this is at least Joy Reid is one step away from Maddow because I was at that event at the synagogue and she was very much playing into the idea that pro-Palestinian sentiment was connected to a history of fascism in the United States.
Yeah, Joy Reid at least has been good on the Gaza
on one
issue.
Thing.
Yeah.
On one thing.
Yeah. Yep. That's more than we could say.
None of
Maddow.
these people will speak up for, look, we wouldn't piss on Mehdi Hassan if he were on fire, but presumably they don't have the issues with Mehdi Hassan that we do. Joy Reid, man, you haven't made enough fucking money. Like, you haven't made enough money to take a principled stand. You don't have fuck you money at this point. What are you, blowing it at the track? Like, you can't take a stand on this issue if you care that much about it. So even on that level, yeah, she might speak about it, but she's not going to speak to the point that they'd have to fire her. Because her, they would fire. Maddow, they cannot.
No, Maddow, they can't, for sure. Rachel Maddow chimed in on the results of the Iowa caucus, in which Donald Trump won by a resounding 30 points, finishing, of course, with 51% of the vote to DeSantis' 21 to Nikki Haley's 19. It was a predictably bad night on MSNBC. So here's Rachel Maddow breaking down the results a bit.
Sure, takeaway from that, and I don't mean to be, again, too dark, as you said, on this, but it is not, if we are worried about the rise of authoritarianism in this country, we are worried about potential rise of fascism in this country, if we're worried about our democracy falling to an authoritarian and potentially fascist form of government, the leader who is trying to do that is part of that equation. But people wanting that is a much bigger part of that equation. Right. And the American electorate is made up of two major parties. One of those parties has been flirting with extremism on the ultra-right for a very long time. They've brought them in a way that they haven't been central to Republican electoral politics ever before, and I know because I've been studying this.
And the other major party was supposed to have an Iowa caucus tonight, but they canceled them because last year they lost the votes when it came time to count them. Why did they lose the votes? Because the app that was engineered in part by the campaign team of the contending candidate, Pete Buttigieg, malfunctioned. And that same campaign team, by the way, had the poll of record, the most reputable poll in all of primary politics nationwide, the Des Moines Register poll. He had that poll spiked due to a, quote, procedural complaint.
They called the manager.
That's the pro-Democratic Party. That's the real Democratic small d party that was supposed to have these tonight, but they couldn't because they were illegitimately held last time.
Yeah, well, this is the same party that is striking the candidates, such as they are. We're not fans of anybody running, but hey, they got a right to run. And the Democratic Party is not extending that right to them. Now, it's hard for us to feel sorry for them because we've said from the beginning, what part of the DNC walking into a court and saying we have the right to pick the candidates in a back room smoking cigars if we want to, did you not understand?
Of course.
They made their position quite clear that in the end, they will pick the candidate, not the voters. So what were you thinking?
Right.
But once you have radicalized one major party so that those are the preferences of the people who adhere to your party, the leader is interchangeable. And yes, Trumpism is sometimes what we call it. MAGA movement is probably a better way to do it. But there is an authoritarian movement inside Republican politics that isn't being bamboozled by Trump. They are pushing Trump to get more and more extreme because the more extreme things he says, the more they adhere to him. And that is coming from a very large proportion of the American right that adheres to the Republican Party. And that's why this is a Republican Party problem more than it is the problem of one man and his leader.
But it is an example of democracy in action, is it not? Like, if the voters are pushing a candidate in a direction and he's responding and they're to them and they're rewarding him with their votes, isn't that democracy in action? That sounds a lot more like democracy in action than, here it is, 11:30 at night. We think Bernie and Pete are running pretty close, but we don't have any votes. No votes to report. What? That's democratic? But look, this is why Maddow gets the big bucks. This is why she is indispensable on that network. Because Maddow, more than anyone else, delivers the core brands of MSNBC and of liberal media in general. What she just did there is she reassured her audience that they are better than the Trump voters because they watch her. That's what liberal media is designed to do. That's what they're actually selling. That is the product. The product is not news. The product is not insight. The product is not enlightenment. The product is self-satisfaction. Right. They are there to stroke the audience, to make the audience feel like they are in the know, they are in the in crowd because they watch them, or in the case of the New York Times, because they read their paper. That's the product. And there's no one better at delivering that product than Rachel Maddow. She does that better than anyone in the business.
Yep. She's very slick. She's very smart. And yeah, I mean, it's all about being seen, having those opinions. You know, this is, you know, it's a little bit of a tangent, but it's definitely related. So, you know, Disney just dropped like the ultimate box checking show, as some would have it, Echo, where the protagonist is deaf, an amputee, and Native American. You can't make this up. And I cannot tell you how many people I've seen, you know, and this show's terrible. I can't tell you how many people I've seen make a point of posting on social media about how much they love the show. Why? To be seen talking about how much you like that show, right? There's no other reason. I mean, when they dropped Hawkeye, you didn't see all these people feeling a need to tell you what they thought about that. It's the same thing across. It's all kind of one brand. It's all kind of one outlook in some respects, literally, because Disney owns ABC, which doesn't really have any different news desk than MSNBC, just not as successful at it. For people to whom this appeals, they listen to Rachel Maddow, they listen to Joy Reid, they listen to Chris Hayes, they listen to all these goons to get their marching orders and talking points. These are the things that when you go to work on Monday, you're going to repeat what you heard here. Yeah, no, it's these white evangelicals are really afraid that, you know, they're losing their primacy, and they think Trump's going to give that back to them, and they talk as if they're thinking and not just repeating.
Yep. Now, Maddow did want to lighten the mood a bit as the evening went on, and so she did bring up that Trump is likely to be thrown in jail. And this next piece is in response to the data points that we talked about earlier in the live stream, but I will put this up on the screen once more, just for this segment. If Donald Trump were to be convicted of a crime, would you consider him fit to be president? And you had 65% of voters responded, yes, he is fit to be president, even if he's convicted. She is now giving her take on that piece of exit polling data.
This means that of people turning out to caucus in Iowa, a third of them think that if Donald Trump is convicted, he is not fit to be president. In this incredibly conservative electorate where Trump is going to run away with the Iowa caucuses by a mile and then some, still a third of that electorate says if he's convicted, they're going to nominate him nationwide? Yeah. When even a third of Iowa caucus goers say no?
That's not quite what they said. They didn't say, if he's convicted, if he's convicted, he's not fit to be president. That's all that means. That doesn't mean they still won't vote for him over Joe Biden. When Trump won in 2016, 17% of Trump's voters said he's not fit to be president. Exactly. 1 in 5 Trump voters in 2016 said they'd still vote for him. So it's not It just means, we don't think he really belongs there, but he still belongs there more than Joe Biden, according to most of those voters. I promise you that.
Well, and this is part of why, and I can say this as a recovering Democrat, when you watch that kind of media, it's always Lucy and the football, because they have to give you a carrot. It can't be all stick, right? So it's they're always dangling. Oh well. Hey, no, the good guys are going to win this time. Your team's going to win because this. And then when it doesn't happen, then they shift the narrative over to what forces of evil did to cause it not to go that way. And this is why now we have to do this, right? It's just that constant two-step when you watch this kind of media. It's just that constant dance between do this so that good will triumph, and then when it doesn't, oh, well, it's because of this. So now you have to do this. You're just constantly manipulated into following a soap opera. I mean, it's basically a soap opera. Oh, what's going to happen to Susan Lucci tomorrow? I mean, that's what this is.
Indeed. All right. We're going to take a few more super chats and then move along here. Oh, I see what Tusker did there. Russell, get your singing bowl ready. I will vote for the devil, but Nikki Haley. I was assuming, but not Nikki Haley. Rosanna, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Now, Tusker says, fine, I'll take the bait. Give me the sound drop. $50. Thank you, Tusker. So now we're going to...
So what, you guys robbed the Tasty Freeze before you burned it down?
Right, exactly. All right, now we're going to try and do this. Hold on. No. You got to ring it, and you ring it the bowl in real life.
I ring it the bowl, and you're going to hit the sound.
I'm going to hit the sound. 1, 2, 3, go. Nope, that sucked. Let's do it one more time. Now, see, we got to coordinate this.
1, 2, 3.
Boom. Now that worked. That was beautiful. We just got to tweak it a little bit. I got to have it fade out.
Yeah, I didn't have time to.
That's all right. That was good, though. We got the rhythm down. Another vote for Nakba Nikki. Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you very much.
I thought those were all great. We should have a contest. We should have a vote for which of those we should use as long as she's around.
Those were all very good. Yeah, indeed. Patrick D, thanks for the $9.99. I was raised Christian, and most Christians don't like Jews because they killed Jesus and won't acknowledge he was the Messiah, and they see themselves as God's new chosen people, the evangelicals. Interesting. There's a snowplow outside making noise.
I heard they don't like us because we have big dicks.
Yeah, that's what he was told.
It intimidates them.
The greatest left-wing premier of Canada, Tommy Douglas, was a Baptist preacher by vocation. Maybe the Democrats should get a little religion. Thank you for that, Anonosaurus. Haley Clinton says Tusker. That's not bad.
Haley. This is something I'm thinking about doing some kind of video essay about, along with like the 2 others I have fucking backed up, or like 4 others. Listening to Martin Luther King for Martin Luther King Day in the segment I was doing with RBN about his Beyond Vietnam speech. You know, we as like leftists, we tend to very reflexively, not everybody, but we tend to very reflexively reject religion. But there is a dimension of human thought and human philosophy that is established most strongly in religion that you can hear in Martin Luther King talking about universal love. And in that speech, he talks about all the different religions having that idea. And
even a guy like Cornel West. That's one of the things that drew me to Cornel West originally. Yeah.
Sure. And so have we not lost something? And you know, more broadly, and this is something that Louise Perry, who, you know, basically put us on the do not call list. I've tried to get her for this show. I've tried to get her for Jimmy Dore. Nothing. But, you know, regardless, her book, The Case Against the Sexual Revolution, opens up some really interesting ideas about where a lot of progressive thinking has gone wrong. Like, for example, New York Magazine. I have a subscription for the show to New York Magazine. Once in a while, they have an article I want to use, and it's paywalled. So their cover story this week is polyamory. How did polyamory become a thing? A guide for couples, if you want to dabble into it. And, you know, the argument Louise Perry is kind of making in that book is, who says all this is a good idea? Like progressives, leftists, liberal, you tend to just accept the idea that an ever-expanding panoply of sexual kinks and options is progress, right? It's to a greater social good, right? We tend to default to accepting or even promoting that kind of thing. And okay, well, I'm not saying this is the reason. It's a complex question, but I don't think anyone could argue that people with that cultural point of view have not won the culture wars over the last several decades, right? I mean, we've gone much more in that direction than in some kind of conservative direction, right? I mean, we'd all agree on that. Are people happier? Like, are things going better? Like, it seems like we never asked that question about those ideas.
I mean, I don't know. It's
are
still
they
pretty
benefiting
rare
people?
overall.
Are they making society healthier? Are people happier this way? It seems like you're not supposed to ask that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that those are still pretty rare in terms of like the lifestyles that a lot of people choose. I think there's.
I thought that until I came to Jimmy's, and there's swing parties, and
right, exactly.
And I was like, "What's that swing for?" They were like, "You'll find out."
All right, folks, we were thinking about testing out a sort of mid-show break, just like a quick 2-minute break where we can get some water. And then we're thinking tonight, should we try that? Should we not try that? But I'm getting over a bit of a cold or something, and I'm out of water. So it seems like a good night to try that. So we're going to test out. We'll see how many of you guys stick around. See how much you really like us. We're going to take a 2-minute break and get some water, and we'll be right back. So stay there. Don't go nowhere. All right, how do we do? Well, we lost about 150, looks like, in the YouTube chat, and Rumble is right where it was when we left, which means Rumble, you guys are cooler. Congratulations.
Rumble people, they are loyal.
That's the difference between a mom and pop business like Rumble and a mega corporation like
It's
Google.
mostly-
Google,
it's
you take a
mostly
water
bikers
break, they
on
dock
Rumble.
you, you know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look, I need water, okay? I'm sorry. I needed a 2-minute break for some water. You know, it's nice. Breaks the show up a little bit. You know, went and I got a little bit of water. But thank you for those of you who stayed. Now I feel in much better shape to do the rest of the show. Tusker just sent me a message saying the singing bowl is still ringing at a low volume in the background. That can't be, can it?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Is it?
That's your ears ringing from the explosion, Tusker.
Yeah.
You can, if you're gonna blow up a Tasty Freeze, you have to get clear before.
There we go.
Like, you guys don't have money for depressors.
All right. So let's pick up where we left off here. We got a few super chats to get to. Rumble rants we are almost caught up on, but I'm sorry, folks. We are without Jake tonight, so I'm doing the best I can with these Rumble rants. I think I am all caught up on them. So let me take a couple of these here. As a South Carolinian, Nimrata Haley is far more hated here than nationally. We remember how badly she ran the place. She did everything short of selling off the governor's mansion furniture to rob us.
That sounds like her.
Sounds like her. You're forgetting that Mayo Pete ran out and declared victory with 1% of the vote counted in Iowa.
No, we didn't forget. I didn't forget.
No, I didn't forget that. But yeah, we had no votes that night, no results.
Yep.
And check out Tommy Douglas's Mouselands, pretty good summation of electoral politics. Well, thank you very much. Pardon me. Thank you guys all for being here. We are going to move right along. We have a few more segments. This is somewhat election related. This relates to the economy, of course. Peer in this space, David Pakman, doesn't take calls for his show. He takes voicemails. So one of the things he does is he has a voicemail line, and he will have you leave a voicemail. And then if you leave a voicemail to troll him or disagree with him, he'll play the voicemail back, but he'll act as if he's responding like in real time, as if you're talking.
I didn't. Yeah, see, I thought it was a conversation until you just told me that.
No, if you notice, he's responding to a voicemail telling this caller the economy is actually quite good.
Acting like the economy is so booming and good.
Because I look at the data. This is not a show about my opinion. My opinion is irrelevant. I'm looking at the data, and that's why I say the economy is good.
The economy is absolute trash.
Oh.
There are no jobs.
Oh. We actually have record low unemployment.
Everything is so freaking expensive.
Inflation was 0 in October, 0.1 in November, and year-over-year inflation is down to 3.1%.
Interest rates are through the roof.
So right there, the average person, that hurts. It doesn't matter if it wasn't up that much month over month. And by the way, a hot inflation report just came in this week, and it's tanking the market because everyone thought the Fed was going to be able to start scaling back, and inflation started heading back up again. But 3.1% year over year, on top of the inflation that we've had for multiple years, that's killing people. If you don't understand that, what the fuck are you doing? And more to the point, hey, man, this message, and this is how lacking in self-awareness he is. He doesn't come off looking good. The message is basically calling him a grifter, and he's reinforcing the case with every answer that he has. The message is like, yeah, you're lucky you're on YouTube making money, motherfucker, because you wouldn't be able to make money out here. Like that. Yeah. That's the upshot of the message. And he's right. Like, why? Look, I can't even blame him, man. He's making his money. Who watches this? Who watches this? Why would you watch this fucking idiot who does not understand how much years of inflation have hurt people, even 3.1% year over year, unless wages have kept up with that, which they have not? That's money out of your pocket.
Even if it flatlined, it would still be too much.
Right.
Even if it flatlined this year over last year.
Over several years now.
Exactly. Even if it flatlined this year over last year, it would be way too much. It would be way too much.
Yeah, I sent you a picture, and granted, it's L.A. I sent you a picture the other day, man. The gas here is like $5.67.
Yeah,
and that carries over into everything. You'll have a heart attack, man. To order a hamburger.
Yeah, I wasn't sure you'd want to tell this story on the air because it's a little bit embarrassing. But go ahead. If he makes a point, it makes a point.
Hey, I got to fucking eat.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? That was when I first got here. I had no food. I didn't have anything. It was too late for Instagram.
Yeah.
Hamburger? Instacart. It was too late for me to shake my moneymaker on Instagram. Mm-hmm. So I get the boys to bring the milkshake to my yard. Right. So I order a milkshake, hamburger, fries, $48
from DoorDash to have them deliver it.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I'm a sport with the tip, so that's part of it. But still, man, I mean,
no, gas is $5.50. The base pay on those orders out there has to be high enough for those drivers.
Fucking dollars.
Yeah.
And it's, I looked at other things. Like, it's not like anything else was going to be that much less expensive. Like, I was not, with what I would tip, I was not getting away with paying less than like $38 for anything I would order.
Yeah, no, it's brutal, and the groceries are brutal. You know, I always try to shop at either like a wholesale grocery place or Trader Joe's because it's cheap. But every once in a while, you're running around, you got the kids with you, you got to do some grocery shopping at like a Target. You can't fill any. I mean, you go to a regular store that's not like a discount store or like a Trader Joe's, it's $100 to fill a fucking grocery bag. So what are you talking about? It's a 3.1%. See, the reason why he's obsessed with his data is because his audience, to answer what you asked, are people for whom politics is baseball. So you're like talking about which team is better. Well, Cincinnati's shortstop has a higher fielding percentage than Pittsburgh's, and so they're the preferable team. That's all politics
but just
is
go
to
to
his
CNN.
audience.
Go to CNN. They have a budget.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to watch this schmuck, this low charisma schmuck, tell you what you could hear on CNN?
Even
That's
the
what I don't
PMCs are getting
understand.
priced out of cable these days, I guess. I don't even know what cable costs now. I get it with my apartment. It's included in the rent they pay for the cable and the Wi-Fi, so I don't even know what it would be. But it's insane.
I don't have cable at this point either. I can't answer that.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go back to David Pakman.
Rates are down 2 points and coming down further.
Kids can't even buy a house.
Well, okay. Kids can't even buy a house. I don't know what age you're thinking of. That part may be true.
Kids, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm 37. I can't buy a house. Nowhere near buying a house. I mean, I don't know. I'm a kid, according to Paulie Walnuts would call me a kid. You know, he'd grab me by the cheeks and say, "You're a good kid."
I mean,
but,
you could buy a house in Albany.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard. The housing is just going absolutely through the roof.
If you weren't doing YouTube, man.
I'd probably be working in finance, to be honest. I was all set to go into finance,
really want,
and then they pulled me into podcasting.
Politics.
I did everything right, and they.
He'd be in finance.
Yeah,
he'd be in. That's who you really want your left politics from.
It's a great thing to. At first, I thought he may have been kidding, you know, because he's got a little bit of a sarcastic thing going. But no, watch.
Guided me.
No, I would almost certainly be working in finance. Yeah.
So then he's serious. He's serious. I'd be working in finance.
Like, this isn't even. We talked about this before we went on for the segment. This isn't even like MSNBC. This is like the kind of take you'd get from CNBC.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'd be working in finance. What do Russell and I do when we're not doing this? Tour guiding, delivery driving, right? That's the difference. That's the difference. Thankfully, thanks to you beautiful people, we don't have to do much of those anymore, but we still got to do some. It's not finance.
Sit there and talk crap about Trump every single day to put food on your table, man.
I don't have to. I choose to, sir, and that's a big difference.
If you didn't have that,
I could be in finance.
Totally true, man.
Right.
But I'm telling you this right here. There is no jobs. Nobody is spending money.
Actually, GDP has been up dramatically.
The economy is in the hole. I'm not talking about Trump or Biden. I'm not saying right or left, red or blue. I'm telling you the facts. The economy is in the dumps.
I would love it if he was able to present a single statistic that suggests that. We don't have a perfect economy. And again, you know, we started at the top of the show.
I mean, you just mentioned a statistic, but you mentioned it as a positive, 3.1% inflation.
Yeah. Yeah. And GDP does not reflect the overall health of an economic system.
No,
that's like,
half
I
of that
took one
GDP
economics course in college.
Jeff
I learned
Bezos.
that. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. Especially in a society as unequal as ours, you can have a country with a booming GDP with extreme levels of income inequality and poverty, which is what we
if
have
you
now.
don't understand that, you're not qualified to comment on politics or to work in finance.
Exactly.
Just because they're lying about oil production being down when it's actually up doesn't mean we like using oil as a source of energy. They are lying about oil production being down. And I wish it were, and that we were getting off of oil and going over to green energy. In the same way, just because the economy is doing really well by all historical metrics doesn't mean that we say, hey, I'm satisfied, we don't need to do any better. There are people without access to healthcare. 40% of the country can't meet an unexpected $1,000 expense without putting it on a credit card or borrowing from friends and family or otherwise.
Oh, that's a great economy, though. It's a great economy,
though. What do you think 3.1% inflation does to people in that position? Because that's a pay cut. That's a pay cut. What if somebody told you they cut 3% of everyone's wages?
Right.
You'd understand that, right?
Especially when most of them can't afford a $1,000 emergency as
right. If they can't afford a $1,000 emergency, what does 3.1% inflation do to their family budget?
Of course. Of course.
Say, hey, I'm satisfied, we don't need to do any better. There are people without access to healthcare. 40% of the country can't meet an unexpected $1,000 expense without putting it on a credit card or borrowing from friends and family.
I think that's wrong. I think it's 60-something%. That was according to the Forbes study. I can't imagine that number has improved. So I think he reversed that.
I think it's 57% because I just cited it in an article.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so not 40.
Just have not kept up with inflation over the longer period of time. There's a whole list of problems, but we are doing way better than we were. We are not the be-all, end-all of a Northern European-style democracy and economy, but we have made improvements. And we have to recognize that if you are measuring how well the economy is doing differently depending on who's president, then you're being biased.
Wow. So what is he, just like a Biden butt boy? Like, is that, what does he do?
I mean, the whole idea.
What's he there for?
The whole idea that, well, we're not where we could be, but we're better than we could be also, right? Seeking out that middle ground and then acting as if, I mean, I don't know. In Pakman's case, does he even put on airs that he's actually trying to push towards something better? Because what the message of the Biden White House is going into this campaign and all of the surrogates, and at this point, I would just include David Pakman as a surrogate for the Biden campaign. Maybe he's not on the payroll, but he may as well be talking like that. Their message is the economy is really good. Their message is this is the end of the line. This is the best deal we can get you. Even student debt, even the revamped student debt plan is going to be a small shadow of what it was before it got struck down. And it didn't have to be that way.
Well, you know what's ironic?
The Higher Education Act in the first place.
They're having trouble with young voters. And if you look at what they're going for with the revamped one, it's only really going to help people who've had these fucking loans outstanding for 25 fucking years, which is not the young people.
Exactly. So, look, I mean, just as, you know, we did a segment earlier about MSNBC, about how that exists to sort of present politics as a sport where you can cite your stats up against the other team or they cite their stats. Right. That's what that is. Right. That is a presentation for people with no actual skin in the game. He's not trying to convince working class people that they have it better than they think they do. Working people know where their bank account stands, right? And they're not watching him. You can't bullshit someone with $80 in the bank who has to decide, do I put in half a tank of gas and fill, one grocery bag, or do I, put in, a quarter tank of gas and get 1.5 grocery bags and try and stretch that extra food to the next week for the next check? Like, that's where working class people are at now in this great economy that we supposedly have. So you can't bullshit them. What you can do is bullshit the PMC about how good the working class have it, because they don't know any better, because they're not working class people. And so the audience of the David Pakman show gets armed with the facts that GDP is up. And now I have an answer to my Republican friend, next time I see them, and I can own them. And that's all it is. There's no stakes in it for David Pakman, obviously, or his audience. But shout out to Big Mad Crab for actually posting that to his Twitter, and that got about 500,000 views. That went semi-viral there, that post.
Yeah, that whenever I see something like that, I can't wrap my head around it. The only thing I can think is this is for people who want CNN kind of political coverage, but they like having a comment section. They like having a chat.
Right.
They like being able to do things like this, send in a voicemail.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this guy, as he even said there, he says, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. He said he was an independent. So he was not in it for the sort of partisan own. But David Pakman was. Ian Moon, thank you for the $5. Thank you for calling Rachel a POS.
You should. Well, if you haven't seen our intervention on Rachel, you should look it up. Russ, what's the title of that video? Russ and Jose.
Yeah,
something.
Russ and Jose protest Rachel Maddow event. It's on YouTube. It's also on our Twitter. And in that one, Russell saw her in person, so he was very. It was very substantive. There were no ad hominems in that. He challenged her to call out Benjamin Netanyahu as a dangerous foreign leader. So yeah, check that video out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they got to me too fast. I was going to call her a whore, but I didn't get to it.
Didn't get to it. Dragged you out.
Next time.
For the love of God, when can we have a conversation about the term authoritarian means to these gas bags? About what the term authoritarian means to these gas bags, of course. Thank you, Tusker. It's a good point. Sid Artivicious, Maddow Silence 2024.
That's an awesome name.
Yeah. It is a good name. I make it 3,002 live viewers. Thank you, Laugh. That's right. We were up around 3,000, and then we took our water break, and all the Rumble
that was
people,
before we got up to drain the lizard.
Yeah, right, exactly. Took our water break, and we're still recovering from that on YouTube, although the Rumble folks all stayed. Props to you. Thank you. Show Sugino, thanks for the $10. When you get to go to California for free for a month in a dude's place, but the dude gave up smoking a month ago and there's no stash, sad Russell sounds. Russell's never been a big weed guy anyway, right? No.
No, I pretty much gave it up when I was like 15. Like I smoked some after that, but I was a big pothead when I was like 14 and 15. I had like a year where I was Jeff Spicoli.
There you go. Here's Tusker. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. Tusker for $5 says, my lease renewal is due at the end of January, and it's $450 more expensive than 2 years ago. But thanks, Pakman. What a revolutionary. We actually
they can't do that in New York.
Yeah, it's regulated as to how much they can increase it by the rent stabilized units. We were very lucky here that they did not raise our rent this year. I was really concerned that they were going to raise it because it's kind of standard. You raise it every year.
Sure.
But no, they didn't raise it. They didn't raise it on us, which was great of them. They must like us. Axel Strife. Pakman is the shit lib Shapiro. Yeah.
Seems that way.
Indeed. Eric Torres. Pakman, the PMC and PC. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Eric. He said he would be in finance if they didn't push him into podcasting. My question is, who are they?
Mossad.
Mossad. Yeah, it could be Mossad. I don't know where he got his start. He was with the TYT network for a while. I don't know if he was ever on the main channel, but wasn't he an TYT? Affiliated channel? I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure. But yeah, he's been around for a while. He's got a big channel. It's like 2 million subs over there.
How?
Excuse me. Yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre.
Why?
Well, there's money in just like, this is what you were saying earlier with RBN yesterday on the Jimmy Show. Like, if you really want to grift in this space, just pick a red team or a blue team, and that's the grift.
I mean, it's true. That viral satiric song I did, man, that's still because we use that channel to do copyright checks before we throw things on here that might be dicey to see how it comes up.
Right.
So I was looking at it the other day, dude. This very MSNBC shit lib kind of music parody I did in 2009 had still gotten 450 views that day.
Wow. Damn,
dude,
that's crazy.
That freaking thing is what? 15 years old.
15 years old. Yeah. Yep. Sometimes the hits keep playing. A box of Cheez-Its are like $4 now. Yeah, no, like crackers and cookies are just insane. Like a bag of like Tostitos corn chips, like $5.75, like just insane. Yes, but I feel you're paying on the Cheez-Its and all the crackers and the goldfish. Yeah.
You know what I will say I was pleasantly surprised at? In-N-Out Burger was very affordable. The burger, fries, chocolate shake was like $11.50.
Oh yeah, that's a great deal nowadays. Can't beat that.
And it was a double. It wasn't even just a regular burger.
Yeah, you gotta go to the Jack in the Box, get the 2 tacos for. I mean, when I was there last, I think you can get a 2 taco for 99-cent Tuesday or something like that. I forget what it is.
Well, it also saves you money on a colonic.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, I always plan my trips to LA. Make sure I'm there on a Tuesday when the tacos are on sale. Jack in the Box. Yeah, got to make sure you're in there for that. All right.
The pipes out.
Exactly. We got 2 more segments for you guys, folks. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. This is a segment kind of near and dear to me. I've been wanting to do this for a while. AI-generated George Carlin drops comedy special that daughter speaks out against. No machine will ever replace his genius. More than 15 years after his death, this is from Variety, stand-up comedian George Carlin has been brought back to life in an artificial intelligence-generated special called George Carlin, I'm Glad I'm Dead. The hour-long special, which dropped on Tuesday, comes from Dudesy, a comedy AI that hosts a podcast and YouTube show with Mad TV alum Will Sasso and podcaster Chad Koltkin. Quote, I just want to let you know very clearly that what you're about to hear is not George Carlin. It's my impersonation of George Carlin that I developed in the exact same way a human impressionist would, Dudesy, the AI bot, said at the beginning of the special. I listened to all of George Carlin's material and did my best to imitate his voice, cadence, and attitude, as well as the subject matter I think would have interested him today. So think of it like Andy Kaufman impersonating Elvis or like Will Ferrell impersonating George W. Bush. All right, let's take a listen to a little bit. We'll see how much we can get through. This is a little bit tough to stomach, but we'll see how much we can get through. Here's the AI George Carlin comedy special.
One line of work that is most threatened by AI, one job that is most likely to be completely erased because of artificial intelligence. Stand-up comedy. I know what all the stand-up comics across the globe are saying right now. I'm an artist and my art form is too creative, too nuanced, too subtle to be replicated by a machine. No computer program can tell a fart joke as good as me. Well, let's see. This is just off the top of my artificially intelligent head. A fart was in the middle of a very nasty divorce, so she went to her sister's house and she asked her sister, do you think I'm doing the right thing by getting divorced? And her sister said, he's been holding you back for too long. You have to leave that asshole.
Now, that's not a bad joke. And to the AI's credit, that is a joke that is along the lines of what George Carlin may have said as a student of his work. But in general, this was quite the creepy, quite the cringe idea. George Carlin's daughter, Kelly Carlin, tweets out, my statement regarding the AI-generated George Carlin special. My dad spent a lifetime perfecting his craft from his very human life, brain, and imagination. No machine will ever replace his genius. These AI-generated products are clever attempts at trying to create a mind that will never exist again. Let's let the artist's work speak for itself. Humans are so afraid of the void that we can't let what has fallen into it stay there. Here's an idea. How about we give some actual living comedians, living human comedians, a listen to? But if you want to listen to the genuine George Carlin, he has 14 specials that you can find anywhere. He obviously imparted some of that wisdom and perspective to his daughter. At first, I didn't realize this was like a huge podcast with a big following that had an AI bot. I thought this was just like some guy who designed an AI bot and fed it to George Carlin. And at first, I thought, all right, like, I don't want to come down too hard on this guy because it seemed like I thought it was like a fan who really thought that this would be well received and appreciated, that people would get a kick out of how much he was into George Carlin and his humor. But yeah, this is quite the creepy thing. I mean, the voice is pretty close, and that joke that we sampled was in the line of what Carlin would tell, you know, especially in his sort of mid 80s to early 90s phase where he was kind of transitioning from being the clean TV radio comic into the sort of angry old man that he, you know, was known to be throughout the late 90s and the 2000s. There was that sort of midsection where he was he was very political in his presentation, but he sort of dabbled a lot in the sort of petty humor as well. So that was not terrible, but on a whole, yeah, AI can write scripts as good as the average hack screenwriter, probably. But you can't duplicate the greats. You can't duplicate Shakespeare. You can't duplicate Mozart. You can't duplicate George Carlin, who is just at that level of craft in the space. To try and come up with a computer-generated imitation of that, especially since Carlin was just so insightful about the moment he lived in, to try and create that 15, 16 years after he dies, you know, valiant effort, I guess, but swing and a miss.
I don't agree, Gene. I think particularly if you play the rest of it, I was quite surprised at how it went from that to broadening out the perspective.
Well, they gave it cues for that too.
What do you mean?
Well, like they said, okay, we're gonna set it up to talk about some issues of the day. Yeah.
No. But I mean the way that whole bit was worked, because then he starts getting into, no, we're all coming back. And that seems like the way Carlin would have structured that bit.
Right.
And
like I said, it seems like a joke he might tell. Yeah.
And the fact that the AI, it's not just a joke. It's the whole monologue was structured pretty properly for if you were trying to do what George Carlin might have done with that.
Oh, no, but the question is, why do it?
Sure.
Like, I'm not saying it wasn't, I'm saying, it kind of feels like something he might do,
Right.
The question is, why do it?
If the question is, as somebody said in the comments when I looked at this, what's it going to be like in 5 years? Yeah. Like you're saying you'll never be able to do that. And I would argue that it's going to be more like the novelty of having a human do it will always have value. But whether an AI will never be able to do it, this makes the case that it will, because it's still in its infancy. And if it can do that well with that input, yeah, in 5 years, it probably will be able to do something that for all effects and purposes, if you don't know that it's not a person, you just wouldn't even know. Now that at that point, you're going to say, well, I don't like it as much. It's not George Carlin. That's a value judgment. That's not a judgment of the quality. If it can do that now, yeah, in 5 years, it probably will be able to do something that's on par.
No, I'm just saying, as an experiment, as a tech experiment, it's obviously pretty good. I'm just saying there is a certain transcendent level that humans, I think, can unlock through artistic expression that you're not going to be able to unlock with AI. That's what I'm saying.
This is something especially...
And of course, I'm sorry to cut you off. Of course, there's a level of subjectivity to that, because everybody has their heroes in, comedy, music, screenwriting, right, whatever, novel writing. Everybody has their heroes. So there's a lot of subjectivity there. I'm not going to deny that.
That ties into what I was going to say. I've thought about this a lot as an artist. How much of an audience's experience of the work is what they bring to it. It's what the audience brings to the work. So we have this idea that George Carlin is George Carlin because we're bringing that to it, right? But I mean, somebody who doesn't have those biases, those attachments, are you going to say after listening to that an AI can't write something in 5 years that's going to be just as good for the average person as anything George Carlin would have done? I can't say that after listening to that. I'm looking at this head on. Shakespeare is a good example, actually. Shakespeare wasn't Shakespeare until around the late 19th century. Nobody said he was the greatest playwright of his era until much, much later, hundreds of years after his death. Did they decide that he was the person. And you still have people today who will try to debunk that, who will go into Shakespeare's work and point out some of the just absolutely awful purple prose that he wrote. Now, I would say, as with most debates like that, the truth is somewhere in between. He wrote some great stuff, but he did write some terrible stuff that they don't talk about because it doesn't fit this narrative of Shakespeare as, just this transcendent figure.
Well, he was a working writer. I mean, how many plays did he write? What did he write? 40 some odd plays.
A lot,
and yeah, I mean,
but
there's Henry the Sixth Part
purple,
1 or whatever the fuck it is.
Purple prose here and there.
Yeah.
Her eyelids doth close like window shades. There is shit like that in there.
No, but Shakespeare,
people let it pass because it's Shakespeare.
Well, and also the fact that he was capable of that kind of transcendence, right? Like
He
we
was.
knew that
Absolutely.
at his best,
Absolutely.
he had a
Yes.
touch like no one else. And
Sure.
not just from a poetic standpoint or from an emotional standpoint, but from a plot standpoint. I mean, if you read the cliff notes to a Shakespeare play, there's more plot, sometimes in literally the first scene of the first act of a Shakespeare play, than there is in most other plays you'll ever read. Like the story beats. I mean, Hamlet, that's got like 50 fucking story beats. Like, it's insane the amount of storytelling that the guy can cram into a play.
And not only that, because at his best, which I would say Hamlet is Shakespeare at his best, every line has subtext and multiple meanings. And that's a level of craft that most writers will never know, that every line can be interpreted more than one way.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. Can you never program, if you feed in at the rate that these AIs are going, if you feed in the works of William Shakespeare, can it not produce work like that? I'm starting to think it probably can, because I'm arguing that a lot of the element of magic you're talking about, the audience brings that to their perception of the work.
I mean, that's certainly a factor. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. But also, when you talk about a vibrant art scene, part of what creates a vibrant art scene is people bringing their work to other people and inspiring other people to go and create their own thing.
Sure.
Not out of a sense of competition, but out of a sense of contributing to an overall arts environment where people are actually bouncing ideas off each other, showing work to different audiences, and creating a sort of culture around that. AI can't do that. In fact, AI will do the exact opposite of that if it flourishes in the way that it could. And like I said, this was a technically impressive achievement. I just don't think, as George's daughter says there very, very smartly, what does she say there? Let's let the artist work speak for itself. Humans are so afraid of the void that we can't let what has fallen into it stay there. The idea that everything has to be reproducible, right? That in itself is a dangerous idea to bring to an art world, because humans are not reproducible. Humans are organic. We live and we die. So if you could just recreate the work of a dead playwright, or in this case, a dead comic, that does devalue the artist, and it devalues the art scene. It devalues the culture by sort of the sort of extension of making every work replicable for all time.
Right. Okay, but keep going. All right, so I just wrote an article about how the art scene is dead, right? Yeah, maybe you can't create art with AI, but we're not creating art anymore. We're creating content. And AI can certainly create content.
Oh, of course, yes.
Right? Because art has largely been supplanted by content. And as you say, it could certainly produce the work of a hack. And as time goes on, better than that. So if you look at the kind of media that people take in at this point, where it's not live, it's not intimate, it's not person to person, it's all on screens, sure, AI can do that. I mean, based on this.
Well, yeah, in that sense, you're absolutely right. All right, let's go. We got one more segment. Speaking of hacks, we have an RFK segment coming up. Man, my voice is really killing me. Tusker, thanks for the $2. And people consider Pakman a leftist. Yes, indeed. I heard Pakman is a poor little rich boy that grew up quite comfortably in a wealthy family, says Jody Hogan.
Well, that goes without saying.
Would not surprise me.
I can smell that shit a mile away.
Long story short, Peter Schiff debunks GDP being related to living standards. He calls it Gilligan's Island theory. Their lifestyle went up as a show went on, producing less. Thank you, long story short. Appreciate that very much.
Millionaire and his wife.
Fairuz, I hope I'm saying that right. Gada, I hope I'm saying that right. People like you guys who stand on the right side of history are what make me believe humanity will eventually win over cruelty that's massively, unfortunately, ruling the world. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
I hope you're right. Thank you.
And we do hope you are right, indeed. You need to go to Guitar Center, says a Rumble ranter, on Sunset in West Hollywood and try some contact mics on the bowl. We're sticking with our mics.
Yeah.
We're sticking with our mics.
Listen, man, I don't see any shit in the comments anymore complaining about volume fluctuations.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
That's the main thing. If we have to can the singing bowl, that's what we're doing because we finally got these mics going. Back from the road over on Rumble. Sorry, I just caught that one. Excuse me. They're locking up cereal at my local store. Clearly things are going well. Is that right? Locking up cereal. Wow. Lamb no one this week. Sorry, I'm just struggling to do. See, now I know now I know because Misha was telling us that the Rumble rant's backed up on her. Now I know what she means because sometimes the scroll doesn't update right away. So now I'm going back. On a financial note, today I bought a dog roll, dog and cat dry food, BLT bun, and a pack of smokes. 106. Wow, fuel's around $3 per liter down here. The whole Western financial system.
Oh, New Zealand
is
dollars.
Going up. Yeah.
I don't know what that means in that economy.
I don't know what that means, but that sounds like a lot. Back from the road. I like this one here. I'll post this one up here. Dead AI Carlin. Still better than live Amy Schumer. Good. True that, my friend. True that.
Yeah,
Okay, I think we got.
Let me just follow up a little bit. I stirred everybody up, which I wanted to. Yeah, I'm not being contrarian to be contrarian. I feel like you have to think about these things. You can't just assume what you want to believe. I'm an artist. You think I want to? I'm an artist and a podcaster. You think I want to believe that a fucking AI could just recreate us and start doing the show? I mean, I guess if it works for us, maybe. Mm-hmm. But you think I want to believe that if you feed all the episodes of Due Dissidence into an AI, it could just do the show?
Right.
Of course I don't want to believe that. But that example made me consider it more than I ever have. I thought that was a pretty successful experiment.
Oh, no, it was definitely, as a technical experiment, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was well done, sounded close enough, and,
like, we got to look at that, man, because where's it going to be in 5 years?
Right.
Think about it.
No, sure.
You start saying, well, it's going to lack the human spark. I mean, you're getting into metaphysics. I'm saying realistically, for the average audience member, is this shit going to be able to do something in 5 years that for the average person is going to feel the same? Yeah. Based on that, yeah.
Well, that's what ultimately the question comes down to. Who's the average person? What are the expectations of the average person?
Low.
Right? What does the
Very
average
low.
person look for in a piece of work? Right? And, one thing feeds the other, because the more you degrade the art form, the lower the expectations, the more you can further degrade the art form because the expectations just get lower.
We're there.
Spiral. Yeah, we're pretty much there. Indeed. Okay, folks, one more segment to close out the evening. The South Africans brought a case of genocide against Israel to the International Court of Justice. We've heard Michael Rappaport chime in on what he thought of the court case. Now let's go to independent candidate for president, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Here he is asking about the validity of the genocide charge.
So South Africa has brought charges of genocide against Israel in the International Court of Justice. I wanted to ask, what do you make of those charges of genocide? And people are also calling for a ceasefire. What are you thinking about a ceasefire?
I think the charges of genocide are absurd. If you want to look at a genocide, look what's happened to Jews in the Arab countries in 1948. There are 1 million Jews in 27 Arab countries. Today there are 15,000 left.
Use 1948 as an example. What happened in 1948, Russell? That might explain that?
Dark Side of the Moon album? No, that's
later.
That's later. Nakba.
Oh, that's right. The creation
There was
of Israel.
a Nakba.
The creation of Israel, 1948. So the Jews that left the other Arab countries went where?
Israel?
Okay,
Did
so
they
that
go to
might
Israel?
explain why their numbers depleted in other Arab countries.
Well, and a lot of Arab countries took the expulsion of 750,000 Arabs from their home kind of hard, too.
That's true.
There's that, yeah.
That's true. But a lot of Jews ended up in Israel who then had a homeland, right?
Yep.
So I love how he just picks that year out of the blue, 1948.
Look at Israel. In 1948, there were 750,000 Palestinians. Today, there are 7.5 million. So to charge Israel with genocide is exactly the opposite. Of course, it's a very, very damaging charge. It's the worst thing that you can say, but it's part of a strategy of propaganda against Israel. And if you look at each one of these charges, that it's an open prison, that it's ethnic cleansing, that there's an occupation, all of them are just factually absurd.
Oh, all of them. So it's not an occupation either. Wow.
Now those tunnels are suspicious, I'll grant you.
Right.
I didn't like the looks of that mattress.
All of those charges are absurd.
People calling for a ceasefire. What are your thoughts on a ceasefire?
I don't. What is the solution? How does Israel get the hostages back? Israel's getting hit by missiles every day. Tel Aviv has twice the population density of Gaza, and Hamas is hitting it with missiles every day.
Okay, well that's what a ceasefire means. A ceasefire obviously has to go both ways, otherwise it's not a ceasefire. Right. So that's what they mean.
They honored the last ceasefire. I know that because we would have heard about it if they hadn't.
Yeah, and every deal that involves a ceasefire involves the freeing of the hostages. Like, obviously nobody's saying we should just forget about the hostages. Again, I mean, look, this is just, it's more of the same from him. But again, he just takes a claim like, well, you had 1 million Jews in Arab country X, and then in 1948 it shrunk down, not telling you the obvious answer why. He does this all the time. Yep. This is what lawyers do, right? Yep. This is why you have to question everything this guy says. That's not to say that nothing he's ever said has checked out. Quite a bit of it does, but quite a bit of it doesn't. And if you don't know to check under the hood every piece of information that this guy lets fly from his mouth, then you're going to get bamboozled, because this guy at the end of the day is a lawyer. And, lawyers do this kind of thing all the time.
I'm not saying that HIV started in a cornflakes factory from an accident where they crossed the cornflakes with frosted flakes. I'm just saying that there are studies that indicate that.
Right.
Stop that. You just want Israel to cease fire? Hamas has said it's not gonna. Oh, I don't, it's a very strange mindset that Israel gets attacked in the worst slaughter of Jews from the Holocaust, since the Holocaust, and people are now turning this around and making it look like Israel deserved it. And it's Israel's doing what it has to do, what every country would do to protect its population. It has a duty to do that.
I have been saying this. It feels like a year. It can't be a year. I've been sick of this motherfucker almost since I heard about him. I am so sick of this motherfucker being out there. Go away already. Go away. It is, and it's the same thing I say about some other people. I don't want to litigate that tonight. With some people, it is more damaging that they're right about issues you care about, because then they go on to discredit the things you care about by having horrible views in other areas. It makes it very easy for people to dismiss the things that they're right about, because now you have connected them in the public mind to a deceitful whack job.
Exactly. And what else do you say about that bit right there? Oh, the genocide charge, ridiculous. Ethnic cleansing, ridiculous. You have officials from the IDF. You have media figures all over Israel explicitly stating that as a goal. You pull the year 1948 out of your ass as if that's a random year that you're focusing on, not revealing to the interviewer.
He's used to talking to people who don't know anything.
Exactly.
He relies on that.
He relies on that. He relies on that. And for a lot of his other sort of advocacy, it's easy to rely on that, since what does the average person know about toxins in the water, right? Or know about, molecular biology. We'll leave it there.
Gay frogs.
Or gay frogs. Or, look, even, but this, when you get to this example, this has been in the public eye for 3 months, and everybody has been paying attention. And contrary to conventional narratives, this is actually not that complicated an issue, right? It's not hard for most people to figure out. Most people look at a chart of chemicals in the water, they don't know what the fuck to make of it. People look at an image of a baby buried under rubble, it's pretty clear what to make of it. It's pretty clear who did it and why. And so you can't really bullshit people about that. And it's just such an unbelievably...
Well, Regev tried on a sound show.
Yeah.
We don't know how they died. And that's when Hassan went, oh, wow.
Yeah. We don't know how they died. Exactly. No, just absolutely incredible, and just such a waste, because if he were for a ceasefire, like if he were not so unbelievably horrible on this issue, he'd be polling very well, because there's appetite for someone out there who has an actual campaign infrastructure to actually be correct on this issue, to actually provide a real alternative to what's on offer this cycle. But obviously not happening.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Believe me, not good. All right, folks, we got 1165 watching on Rumble, 1502 on YouTube. The hour is getting late here. Thanks for sticking with us on this 9 p.m. show. AI can write scripts, says Tusker, but it can't ever replace delivery.
I mean, the delivery there was not bad. Like, that was part of what led me to that conclusion. Like, there was comic timing. It was very weird.
It did have rhythm and timing, indeed. Tusker, I thought RFK Jr. says his voice gets stronger the more he speaks his bullshit. Why did he sound so scared of the Israel-Gaza question? Well, because I think at this point, is he at odds with most of his supporters on that? I mean, at this point, you either had to accept that or not, right? Like, if you couldn't
Who's left?
Yeah, who's left? Exactly.
I don't even see, we don't even get them in our fucking comments anymore.
No, we don't.
Not once he came out with that Israel shit, that kind of went away.
Well, I knew that was there the whole time, which is part of the reason I never really bought him as a peace candidate, because the people who look past this as just one issue, well, first of all, it's not just one issue. It's a pretty huge issue by itself, but it's also not one issue. It bleeds into all other kinds of issues, including free speech, which he is, supposedly this advocate for. I mean, look at what Bill Ackman, who was an early supporter of his campaign.
He got on board with that, with the campaign against the presidents of the universities.
Of course, indeed. All right, we'll copy over a couple of Rumble rants here, folks. Sorry, like I said, without Jake tonight, so doing my best here. Jake will be back on Thursday morning. So, by the way, folks, we're on again Thursday morning at 9 a.m. The schedule while Russell is doing the Jimmy show is obviously going to be Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. And then once Russell is done with the Jimmy Dore show, we will probably just keep it Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, because once we're done with the Jimmy show, we're going to add a fourth stream, which means these shows will be a little bit shorter, so we could kind of leave the 9 p.m. Tuesday as hopefully a permanent time slot. So we'll finalize that for sure moving forward, but just a heads up to everybody. But thank you guys all very much for coming in here tonight. You were a fantastic crowd. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that follow button over on Rumble. Kuznets, keep us sane. Thanks for the $4.99. When will humanity be allowed to become self-aware? Interesting question.
CPU is a neural net processor, a learning computer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Russ, you ever run into RFK interviewer Elad at events?
I don't know who that is.
I guess not. I'll be doing some events in New Hampshire. Oh, so by the way, let me just take this one more here. Janice Anderson, 750K displaced, not total population. He is such a fraud. Despise him. Yeah, a lot of people People are with
People
you
are
on
saying.
that. People are saying. Yeah, exactly. All right, folks. So before we get out of here, now that we've got all of our content done, I do want to, of course, give a shout out to our Patreon supporters. So once again, you can go to patreon.com/DoDissidents and help support our program. We've had a bunch of new members sign up over the past day or so. Because Jake's not here tonight, pardon me, you're not on the scroll yet, but you will be on the scroll next time. Warren Westell, you replaced Warren Westell lives on with this. Yep, I got that. I figured that out. Apparently, neither of you is a musician. You still use your mic for your voice. You put a contact mic on the bowl and plug it into the auxiliary input. Yeah, but we don't have those, Warren. We have a USB port on our laptops.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And Keaton is a musician, and I'm a dabbler, so.
Yeah. I never really got into it professionally, largely because I didn't want to have to deal with mic cables and schlepping and lugging and inputs and things like that. But
that is so Keaton.
Oh, yeah.
You
know,
I'm a little
traveling.
Curious about the Coliseum, but I don't want to get on a plane and stay at a hotel buy a ticket and walk up the stairs.
What if the hotel is stingy about checkout time? You know, they're going to charge me extra. Exactly. Have you seen the talk, says SB, between Bassem Youssef and Valuetainment? Yeah, that's the PBD podcast, right? The whole talk was essential Bassem versus Adam. Yeah, it was pretty wild. I know Kit covered that. Yeah, we might cover that on Thursday. We'll see.
Somebody sent it to me,
yeah. Yeah, it was pretty wild. You know, the Israel-Palestine stuff, I mean, we obviously have to keep it coming. I try to find stories that are at least a little bit new in terms of, like, you know, not the same argument over and over again. This is horrible, but obviously keeping that front and center most of our coverage. Tonight, obviously, Iowa was the dominant story since that was the huge event of last night. But thank you for letting us know. And there's a possibility we'll cover that on Thursday. Effective Schizo, check out the Bulletin of Atomic Science, this new article about the carbon emissions of Israel's assault on Gaza. Another great argument in the tool belts. There you go. Well, that's something to check out. For sure. Thank you, Effective Schizo. Thank you guys all very much for being here tonight. We appreciate you. We will see you back on the Jimmy Dore Show tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and then back here Thursday morning at 9 a.m. bright and early. Just a reminder, so you guys are ready for this. On Saturday morning, I will be hitting the road to New Hampshire. I will be covering the New Hampshire primaries Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. There will be no live stream on Sunday. What I'm going to be doing the days I'm in New Hampshire is I'm going to be shooting my footage, editing that in the evening, and then publishing that to our YouTube channel as a premiere video. I don't know exactly what times they'll be set up yet because I don't know how long it's going to take to edit. It depends on how much I have. I expect I will have quite a bit, but we will let you know what time they're going to be showing on YouTube. We will create the event on YouTube, but also we'll be sending out a newsletter blast on Substack. So please join our Substack, even if you have to join it for free. Join our Substack and we'll let you know, hey, premiering day one of New Hampshire coverage tonight. It'll probably be around 9 or 10 o'clock at night, but they'll probably be half hour to an hour long. They're not going to be epic videos. So we'll probably get them out between 9 and 10 in the evening. But join our Substack so you know, and we're going to make them premieres, not live streams, but they will be premieres here so we can have our chat come and watch them together as a group and sort of build the kind of community around those videos that we do around our live stream. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But we got plenty of shows to do between then. We got Jimmy Dore Show tomorrow. We got our show Thursday morning, and then the Jimmy Dore Show again on Friday.
Which I will finally be dropping my LA montage of the adventures I've been having out here.
That's right. Russell's going to be doing his LA travel
Fun
montage
with Scientologists
on Thursday morning. Yes, Russell versus the Scientologist. Indeed. All right, so we will see you guys tomorrow on the Jimmy Dore Show, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Russell, we got anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right, that's it. That's beautiful.
We'll be on JD Show tomorrow.
JD Show tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We thank you all very, very much for being here tonight. We had a wonderful crowd on both YouTube and Rumble. That is what we love to see. Thank you all very, very much. We will see you tomorrow on the Jimmy Dore Show back here Thursday. Until then, be safe and be well.
Courage.
It's going to be a little hard now because when we do the end...
It's a little out of sync. It's a little
well, not only is that, it's a little out of sync,
movie
but I'm
from
going to
the
have to
70s.
go here. Let's do it one more time. We're going to have to go from Singing Bowl, and then I'm going to have to scroll up and hit the outro. So be safe, be well.
Courage.
All right, close enough. We'll see you next time, everybody. Thank you.
Please clap.